Will Algorand be the true Ethereum killer? In this video, we'll talk about this layer 1 that has 57x potential. Make sure you like this video and subscribe if you're not already. Let's get into it. Algorand is a layer 1 blockchain, just like Solana, Ethereum, Cardano. It's a layer 1 that, in my opinion, hasn't got its time in the spotlight quite yet. Now, Algorand did kind of have itself branded as the DeFi chain, but they recently seem to have removed that kind of title because they're equally focused now on things like metaverse, gaming, and NFTs. So you can run permissionless or permissioned chains on them. For example, if JP Morgan and Wells Fargo and Bank of America all had different private chains on Algorand, they could communicate with each other as well seamlessly. When you start to talk about enterprises like banks, like Fortune 500 companies, anyone who might want to use Algorand's technology, you have to think about carbon footprints, right? And it's no secret that everybody talks about how inefficient Bitcoin is or how bad for the environment it is. Same thing with Ethereum. Well, Algorand is not only efficient, it is actually carbon negative, meaning that they are able to reduce their carbon footprint by using it, which is vastly different than any other blockchain we talk about. So when it comes down to corporate social responsibility, it makes a lot of sense for a company who cares about their corporate image to be building on Algorand. Algorand is fast and cheap today. It works today, it's decentralized today, and it's extremely secure. So when you're talking about like a DeFi protocol or a bank or something like that, you cannot have downtime and you cannot have a lack of security. So this is why Algorand has a very good chance to be kind of the chain for DeFi. It is fully decentralized, meaning that anybody can use the network, anybody can run blocks or validate nodes, whereas in some blockchains, it's easy to game systems, or like in Ethereum, for example, those who are mining the most hash power can control blocks. Heavy, big mining corporations that can actually front run you. So that if they see a big transaction coming in on chain, they can choose to exclude your transaction from a block, put their transaction in front of you, and then post yours after theirs, which would allow them to take advantage of your transaction, charging you a higher price or netting you less on your transaction. That can't happen in Algorand because of the unique randomness that exists on the nodes. So you could have like 1,000 nodes running and only a handful of them will be randomly selected to choose the next block. So it makes it impossible for the centralization and manipulation to happen on block selection. So Silvio Macaulay was faculty at MIT Electrical Engineering and Computer Science Department since 1983. Silvio's research interests are cryptography, zero knowledge, pseudo-random generation, secure protocols, and mechanism design and blockchain. I mean, this is one of the most qualified founders you could ever possibly wish to have in a blockchain. Their CEO is Steve Kokinos. So Steve was co-founder of Blade Logic, who had Fortune 500 clients like GE, Time Warner, Microsoft, Walmart, Sprint, and several others. Also, Sean Ford, COO of Algorand right now. Prior, he was the CMO at Oracle. This is a seasoned team of experienced and very, very impressive executives. Proof of work, if you don't know, is what Bitcoin runs on, where miners need to guess the answer to very, very complicated math questions. This is why you've got literally millions of computers around the world that are doing computations, trying to calculate this math problem, and whoever guesses that answer right gets the block reward. Your voting power in a proof of stake system works based on how many tokens you hold or how much stake you have in the game. That's why they call it proof of stake. Some criticism might say that this is unfair because the whales will have the majority of the voting power on the network. And while this is true, it also makes the most sense, right? You don't want some guy who holds 2 algos to be able to have the same voting power as someone who has $10 million with the Algorand, right? So you need to have the people who have the most skin in the game, have the most voting power in the network. The Marshall Islands, which is a sovereign nation, they're building their central bank digital currency being built on the Algorand ecosystems. They are basically the guinea pig for any nation who has been reliant on another country's currency to start creating their own currency. And you can imagine if they pull this off well, this is going to be cookie cutter for other nations who would like to also free themselves of the United States dollar and use their own currency. Now, Algorand Virtual Machine 1.0 is set to roll out quite soon, which is going to be a better performing blockchain, which is required for very, very advanced, very, very secure DeFi protocols. Again, Algorand wants to make sure that they can be the de facto blockchain for decentralized finance. They also have the ALGO and ALGO DEX, which are basically the equivalent of the DeFi protocols that are being built on Ethereum, such as Aave, such as, and then the stablecoin ecosystem, such as MakerDAO, which has a DAI stablecoin. So this all exists already on Algorand as well. And right now they're actually processing 1,000 transactions per second. However, they have a goal to increase this to 46,000 transactions per second, which makes it faster than Visa and MasterCard and plenty fast enough to transact any type of transaction that ever wants to run on Algorand. Borderless Capital is a very, very, very large fund that invests in layer ones and some other projects as well. They recently announced a $500 million fund for any project to build an Algorand. These guys have skin in the game and they have incentive. And if they're dumping $500 million right now to boost the Algorand ecosystem, that is incredibly bullish and leads you to believe that they think that the value of the ALGO token is going to increase dramatically. I have been hearing more and more projects coming to me because we get tons of people that want support from Master Ventures, from investment, from incubation, advisory, or to launch on paid ignition or whatever. I hardly heard Algorand before at all until about 3 months ago. And then I started hearing like one project every 2 weeks or so. And then I started hearing like one project a week. And now I'm hearing about one like every 3 or 4 days. So there's definitely way more interest coming up in the Algorand ecosystem. And you can see that they have quite a robust ecosystem already being developed of over 500 projects or companies that are now building in technical, financial infrastructure, just different applications or DApps as we call them, university partners. So they're partnered with a bunch of different universities. And down here, you see some of the key stakeholders, some very big VCs. One of the interesting things was that Algorand wasn't actually one of these projects that was funded by a bunch of massive tier ones, but they were like Borderless Capital, you got Arlington XRP, and some of the other traditional funds in here who aren't necessarily super heavy crypto focused, but they are big players in the traditional financial world. It is inflationary, but it does have a max supply of 10 billion tokens. All of these 10 billion tokens were pre-minted at the launch. However, right now there is only 7 billion that have been unlocked from locking contracts. But there's only 6.6 billion in actual supply, and 67% of the actual circulating supply is locked up right now for node runners and staking and things like that. So you actually have only 33% of this circulating supply is actually circulating right now. Originally, the entire 10 billion were meant to be circulating by the year 2024, but they have extended that by 6 years. So we can expect to see the rest of these 3 billion tokens come into circulation over the next 8 years, which is quite a low emission schedule. All right, guys. Well, with everything that we've gone over, this is why I think that Algorand has the potential to reach Ethereum's market cap, which is a 57x from here. Again, this is why I'm quite bullish on Algorand. This is why I will be adding it to my bags. And guys, that's gonna wrap it up for this video. Make sure that you like and subscribe. Thank you very much.